Draft Thunder is back 2 years later for preseason week 1.
Couldn't be more happy. Football's back. Preseason's back. Our favorite time of year. Biggest edge that we think we can find throughout the entire year. And the Hall of Fame game, 2 days away.
So, I'm not trying to brag. I'm not. But, I would say we're a little better than most of the people out there when it comes to preseason. It's our specialty. Week 1, no. When it gets to regular season week 1, you can stay with us. We might show out. But preseason's a different animal for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this year will really show that. I think a lot of different sites and content creators are starting to get into the preseason space. They see the edge that can be had by diving into the research and doing the legwork and seeing the outcomes. But this will be our third or fourth preseason. Obviously, you missed last year, which really hurt. But we'll just call last year a wash for everything anyway. So
That's true.
I just can't wait to get back into it.
Yep, I completely agree. So what today's video is going to include, so I'm going to give a breakdown of historically the past 3 years, how basically the optimal lineup was. We have a strategy for GPPs and cash games. I will edit the names of the players we were choosing, so if you want, you can skip through, you can listen to our takes. Really do however you want with this video. It's going to be a little long, but you can make it as short as you want with those takes. So let's get right into it. I did some digging up, and we have the 2019, 2018, and 2017 Hall of Fame games to go off of. Now, this year's a different year, okay? Guys are going to be on the COVID list, that's one thing. There's going to be people to watch out for come up to the game time. Also, there's a lot of injuries this year, and this is a new preseason, so only 3 games.
Right, yeah. For most teams, only a 3-game preseason. Obviously, Hall of Fame game teams will have 4 like usual, but our typical Hall of Fame game might be a little bit altered this year.
Yep. The good thing is, when it comes to preseason week 1 and the Hall of Fame game, they are kind of similar. So we're looking for about the same thing we normally would. It's not too off tracks. Next week's going to be a little crazy.
Yeah.
We're not going to know as much to expect, but we will be watching the beat writers and be ready for that. So let's go into the history of it. In 2019, the score is 14-10, 2018, 17-16, and 2017, we were looking at 20-18, so very low scoring games. The over-under is 2.5.
Yeah, I think it opened and it already got back down.
What was it?
Opened 34, I'm sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
I would take that under. But now it's, 33, I think is about where this ends. I think it's going to be somewhere around that. So 17-16, we'll see. That's what's kind of been in the past, like we said. Basically, what I did is I went each year and broke down what the top position was and how the scoring ended up. So in 2019, you had a running back, quarterback, wide receiver, defense, then wide receiver. And the same thing in 2018, you had wide receiver, quarterback, defense, wide receiver, tight end. And then in 2017, you had tight end, quarterback, running back, and tight end. So you can hear it's a wide range of things. This is for the number 1 GPP lineup you can make, the optimal lineup. You hear one thing, what is that?
The most projectable and the most often heard there was probably running back.
Yeah.
Touches are king. That's true in any slate, regular season, postseason, preseason. And that's going to be more than likely the most projectable thing. I mean, a wide receiver could play the whole game, see 9 targets, and catch 2 of them. That's just the way it is. Running backs are also going to have the biggest chance to score, in my opinion. So,
and we're thin this week. We are thin with running
yeah,
backs.
it does seem so.
Another thing, quarterbacks were not the top of any of those 3 games. They were kind of in the middle. In 2018, we had Ben Kurt, who was on the Falcons. He had a very good game, but he was in a quarterback room with Matt Schaub, who played half of a quarter.
Yeah.
So we're not going to see that same opportunity, I don't think, as much this week. Some kind of similar situations, but basically what I'm trying to get at here is any position can really come up to be that captain. It's going to be someone who breaks a run, gets maybe 4 catches for 50 yards and a touchdown. Even 3 catches, 20 yards and a touchdown, that can do it.
Yeah.
In 2017, Rico Gathers, he got 14.9 fantasy points at tight end spot, and that was from a few catches and a touchdown. Anything really happened here, but there's obviously 2 strategies. I would say, from what we've gathered, don't go quarterback at captain if you're doing a GPP. You're going to gain that edge anyway, because a lot of people are going to do that, especially with someone like Haskins, who we'll talk about later. And also, if you're doing a cash game, defenses are good. Let's talk about the past 6 years. Last year we had the Falcons Broncos 9-6 points. Year before that, Bears and Ravens 13 and 11 points. That is super safe in the cash game. If you did either of those as a captain, you're cashing probably. Year before that though, Cardinals Cowboys 3-3. You can get burned
to an extent.
Yeah. Cowboys, I think, are actually kind of looking good for their young defensive team this year. Steelers are going to always be ready on defense.
Right. And the thing about defenses, and especially in the Hall of Fame game, is second half of these games typically get really sloppy with third and fourth string O-line that really don't have a chance to make a team. And that's where you see the sacks and the strip sacks and rush throws and picks. And so that's really where the defenses come in. Like you were saying, I think for cash, both defenses is probably going to be optimal or even single entry, just because you're really just looking for guaranteed points in these types of slates. Like we said, a receiver could play, like you could do all the research in the world and the receiver could play, half or three quarters and end up not catching a ball just by happenstance. So you're really just looking for guaranteed points in a cash or single entry, or if you're just looking to build your bankroll. There are a couple big contests this week that DraftKings already put out. So if you're looking to take down a huge GPP, then maybe you just do one defense or no defenses. Although we think the edge here is to play both defenses, even still with more of the research getting out there.
Yep. Because let's be honest, if you're still playing DFS now, you're probably pretty experienced. So we're trying to find every edge you can now with how it goes, because you're either doing that or you're sports betting. So
yeah. And I will say I've been in a couple of the snake drafts that they do on DraftKings, and the Steelers defense is going as the first pick and the Cowboys defense is going the second pick. So the information's out there for people. People sort of understand this now, especially with the Hall of Fame game no longer necessarily in its infancy. People will see how sloppy it is every year. So the way to be different is to not use them at captain potentially. I think Steelers defense at captain will be pretty heavily used just because everyone's going to assume the Steelers have a better backup defense than the Cowboys. It might not necessarily be true, especially when you factor in injuries. So using different combinations, using a one defense lineup, that's more optimal, could be more optimal for GPPs. Cash game lineup, you're probably going to want to stick to both. Maybe one at captain, maybe not.
Yep. So that's our strategy.
Yeah.
Let's dive into players. So who you got? Let's talk about Steelers first.
All right. Yeah. Let's start with the Steelers. So starting off at quarterback, I mean, you're not going to see Roethlisberger. The talk is right now that Mason Rudolph will start and play into the second quarter. Normally, that's actually pretty good. And I'm not necessarily shying away from Rudolph, but going a little bit deeper, Haskins is most likely going to play whatever the remainder of the second quarter is and the whole third quarter. So it looks like he's probably going to get a little bit more. And what we've seen from camp is he's really comfortable and really enjoys the 2-minute drill. Whether the Steelers have the ball at the end of the half or not, that's a risk you have to take. But I a little bit favor Haskins to Rudolph just because it seems that they want to see Haskins. Looks like they want to make this a true battle for the number 2 spot behind Roethlisberger. And also Haskins is pretty much auditioning for any other team as well. So I think Rudolph will get pulled a little earlier than they're leading on, depending on game flow, obviously. And then Haskins will see 2 quarters, and then Josh Dobbs is going to finish. But I don't have too much interest in a fourth quarter only quarterback that it's really going to be messy by that point. So I lean Haskins over Rudolph, but I don't hate either of them. And you could honestly use both in the same lineup if you wanted to be super safe.
Now, something to consider too. Rudolph will see more starters going against it, but also have the starters. So it plays both ways when it comes to that. Haskins is a young guy, he's a top draft pick, really, who they're going to want to see more of if they can have him take on for the future. Tomlin likes him. Good potential there. We'll see what happens, but he should get a good run.
Yeah, and he's a guy that, like you said, was a first-round draft pick and really flamed out in Washington. It doesn't seem like he's taking the Jamarcus Russell route of, just saying he's better than everyone and not studying tape and then eventually just pretty much getting kicked out of the league because he didn't try. Looks like Haskins is really trying to make a team, really trying to push for that number 2 spot. And the thing about the Steelers is he's kind of in the perfect spot because Roethlisberger's not going to be around much longer. So
Exactly.
he could really play his way into a starting job in the next couple of years. I think it's going to have to start sooner rather than later.
The thing is, they kind of need to move also.
Right.
So we'll see. All right. Let's move on to the running back room there.
Yeah, so pretty banged up. Tomlin has come out and said we will see Najee Harris in all 4 preseason games. What that means for the Hall of Fame game, I don't know. I don't think it will be a ton, just due to you're going to have backup O-line in there. He is really their answer. I mean, behind him is Benny Snell, who played last year. It didn't look very good. That's really all they have. So I can't imagine them wanting to see Najee go down. They want to get him reps, and I totally understand that. Go through getting ready for a game. All that kind of stuff is very important for a rookie. I could see 1 drive, maybe 2 for him. If he scores, that sucks. But that's sort of what I'm leaning towards. I think he'll get maybe 6 touches or so and then get out of there. Benny Snell, the aforementioned Benny Snell, hasn't practiced the last couple of days, so I don't expect to see him. The Steelers are off tomorrow, so we won't have another practice report or a training camp report, but I don't expect to see a guy that hasn't practiced the last couple of days. And they went out and signed Tony Brooks-James, just another camp body, but that sort of tells you that they needed somebody to fill Benny's role during camp. Moving on to Anthony McFarland, looks like he's going to have a bigger role in the Steelers' offense in the regular season this year, which is exciting. He went to Maryland, second-year guy now. Really explosive at Maryland. He showed glimpses of it last year, but didn't see a ton of run. Looks like in this new offense for the Steelers, he's going to have a little bit more to do. Now, I believe he left practice early yesterday. He did practice today, but in a limited fashion. He's someone that I like for this game. I think he would be the guy I would go to, but it does scare me a little bit that he only partially practiced and that he could be a little bit limited in the game. But still someone that I think I'm going to target. Like we said, especially if he sees a majority of the touches, he's someone, historical data will show us that running backs are somebody that could really be a top scorer on the slate. After him, you just have Jalen Samuels and Kaleem I can never say his name correctly. Kaleem Bayaj. Kalen Bayaj, there it is. Sorry. He's going to be back and also gunner for the Steelers. So he could also be in this player pool for Thursday as a guy that can catch passes out of the backfield. And another guy that I'm targeting, especially with McFarland's sort of limited participation. Jalen Samuels just came back in practice Monday for the first time. So another guy that I don't think you're going to see a ton of, and someone that seems he's fallen out of favor with the Steelers. So I think you could see Bayaj and McFarland sort of duke it out, looking to be that 3rd, 4th running back role. And like I said, they just did sign Tony Brooks-James, I think, yesterday or today. He's not even on the slate. Maybe Draftkings will add him. Again, he's going to be looking at that sort of end of 3rd, 4th quarter mop-up duty. He's been in the Steelers camp before. He's been in the Ravens camp. He's a camp body. He's never made a team, I don't believe. So
he is a preseason guy. He's a guy who has shown up on our radar. So.
I agree. And it's someone that I would consider
if we have more news.
If he had more time in this in camp as well as even being on the slate.
Yeah.
You can't even choose him right now. So
we love that, actually, to be honest.
But just so you know, when you see him come in, that could mean the end of McFarland if you're still watching the game at that point.
It's true.
But I definitely would consider Bayaj and McFarland to be in the player pool this week. Hopefully we get some more news about McFarland's injury, but obviously if he practiced today, it doesn't seem too bad, but could be something that holds him back just a touch. You see Bayaj maybe catch 4 balls, and that's huge, and that could be really what you're looking for.
Yeah. And I saw that Bayaj was working with Josh Dobbs, so you'll probably see him towards the end of the game. I'm not sure when he'll come in. Yeah. Honestly, so it's just so tough to gauge. Okay, so going on to receivers for the Steelers.
Yeah, so I'll start with names that you won't see. Well, for sure you won't see Cody White. He hasn't practiced at all in training camp, obviously. Exactly. Don't know who it is, but he's in the player pool. I think it's important in this type of slate where you don't know a ton of guys, and you might just be like, all right, I'll take him. Don't choose Cody White. Ray McLeod did not practice today. That's an important new development. Obviously, could still play. This is the first day he's missed. But again, I don't really like guys missing the last day of practice going into a preseason game, especially for someone that they've seen and has been with them before. We don't expect to see Juju, and we don't expect to see Deontay Johnson. I could envision them playing Claypool for the same amount of time they play Harris. Nothing guaranteed there, obviously. But could see Claypool, but I'm not considering him for this. So we'll move on to guys that I do like. So first off, if Ray McLeod is out, and hopefully we do get more clarification, but I'm going to move forward with assuming that he is. Anthony Johnson is the only other real slot receiver that the Steelers would have. So I think you could see a lot of Anthony Johnson in the slot, and the slot is going to be typically where the quarterbacks are going to go to get those easy completions. So a guy that could rack up the targets maybe doesn't have the scoring upside, but a lot of targets, could rack up the catches and hopefully maybe bust one off. But if no Ray McLeod, I think you'll see a lot of him. And then I also like Rico Bussey, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce his last name, but he's been working with Haskins a lot as well as Johnson. But they've been on the same sort of team when it comes to training camp, which is what I like to see sort of develop that chemistry. And both of them have been targets for Haskins in that 2-minute drill. So I think they're both people that he looks to when things are sort of stressful, and I like that the connection has been there throughout training camp. The only other receiver that I would consider is James Washington. Now, in 2019, I believe we assumed he wouldn't play too much, and we did see him, I think, have 4 catches and a touchdown.
And 84 yards.
And 84 yards in the first preseason game.
Yeah.
We feel like he's a lock to make this team, and last year Tomlin called him their most important receiver. But I did also read a beat writer just as late as today say you could see a lot of him in the second half, which is very interesting to me. I don't totally understand why they would do that. Maybe he doesn't look as good as some of these other guys that are coming on strong. But if that's the case, I would love a James Washington if he's going to play more than just a couple drives. So that will be something that we could update on our Twitter. But those are the three wide receivers that I'm targeting for the Steelers.
And to put a note to that, he scored in 2019 with 2 minutes left in the second. So I feel like he's going to start. Like
starting receiver,
and he'll go, if he can go all the way to the end of the first half, that's
huge, right? For a legit good receiver.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm hoping that he could be somewhat sneaky. We'll see. Hopefully get more reports. But those are the wide receivers I'm looking at. I'll just roll through tight end. Typically, tight end isn't somewhere when we target in a showdown slate for preseason because they end up blocking a lot with that bad O-line play. And it's just, they usually just don't do a ton. Obviously, always a threat to score in the red zone, but other than that, they're really not much. However, the Steelers do have an interesting situation at tight end where Ebron has not practiced. Probably wouldn't have seen him anyway, but he hasn't practiced. Pat Freiermuth, their rookie from Penn State, got hurt today, left practice early. So
would have been good. He would have been good.
And Tomlin is being a little cagey about how much he's going to play the young guys. It seems like they're going to play a bit, but not a ton because he does want to see the younger guys deeper on the depth chart with this extra week. So even if with Freiermuth's new injury, I can't imagine him playing, if at all, but not much. Yeah. And then Zach Gentry also hasn't been practicing. So that only leaves 2 tight ends on the Steelers roster, which is Marcus Baug, which he was just signed at the end of July after camp already started. And the guy that's been there the whole time and was actually in camp with them last year into 2019, I believe, is Kevin Rader. So Kevin Rader has a drop issue. I'm just going to say it. Like, he's not a very good player, it doesn't seem. But if he's the only tight end available or the only pass-catching tight end that they have, I have to be interested in it. And he's been with them since 2019 now, so it's kind of make or break time for him. I can't imagine they're going to hold on to a guy that keeps dropping the ball that doesn't show out in these type of games. So he's someone I'm definitely targeting, especially if Gentry remains out. And like I said, I can't imagine Freiermuth playing a ton anymore. So Kevin Rader is definitely on my radar.
Yeah. If for some reason we do see Gentry playing, I think he could be interesting.
I agree.
We saw a lot of him at the beginning of the second half and then all the way through the game in 2019 for preseason week 1. So that's something to keep on the radar. Let's keep it moving.
That's it. That's really it for the Steelers. I know that was probably a little bit more player wise, but I think you can kind of deduce who we think is going to see a little bit more, and then who we could use to sprinkle in throughout our lineups. It's foreshadowing to not use him. So yeah, I think you can see sort of who we're using, who's going to get a lot of time, who we don't think is going to get a lot of time, and hopefully if we get any more updates, we can release those on Twitter or do a short form video of the updates.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yep. Okay. So going on to the Cowboys, we got another trifecta, it looks like, of quarterbacks.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously Dak is hurt now. You're not going to see him at all. No. He won't even begin throwing until next week, it seems.
Yeah.
So, Garrett Gilbert is the number 2, and he's been starting in training camp, running with the number 1s. He's going to start this game, it seems. And then Cooper Rush will come in, and then Ben DiNucci. Now, it seems like Ben DiNucci will get the majority of the time. He was a 7th-round pick last year with no preseason. Obviously, he had to play in the regular season last year, which is crazy. All I can remember from his start is that he ran, which
That's true.
Is great.
We love it.
And if it's true, my thinking here that aligns with the beat writers so far is if Dak's injury is worse than they're leading on, or it just doesn't get better, which he was already supposed to start throwing, so the fact that they pushed it back a week is a little concerning. They need Garrett Gilbert to be ready for week 1. So I don't think that you're going to see a ton of him. Cooper Rush is another guy we've seen before. He's not very good.
They've had him for a while.
They
know they have. It seems like.
Right. So Ben DiNucci is sort of this guy drafted in the 7th round last year. Didn't get any training camp. Didn't get any preseason. Had to start a regular season game. But I think he's someone that they're going to want to see a lot of. And this is the perfect time to do so. So even if he doesn't come in until the start of the 3rd quarter, I think you could see him for the entire second half, which with his rushing ability, like we said, the game might get really sloppy and slow. That could be a little bit of a downside, but if I'm targeting a Cowboys quarterback, which I think I am, Ben DiNucci right now is my leader.
And he's exactly what you're looking for in this kind of game. He's young, and they don't need him. So
right, and I mean they could if he's better than Cooper Rush, but yeah, he could eventually make it as the 3rd. But yeah, they really want to see what they have in him. I think.
Exactly. Okay, going on to running backs.
So you're not going to see Zeke.
I saw news that said he'll play a possession or 2.
Okay.
Possibly. But whatever it is, it's not important.
Okay.
Unless he gets in the end zone, but I don't think that can happen. I just don't want to say no Zeke.
Okay. You could see Zeke. For very limited.
Yeah.
Which changes a little bit with Tony Pollard then. If they're going to see Zeke, then you're probably going to see Pollard for a little bit more than you see Zeke. But again, Tony Pollard is someone we know, someone they know. They know,
like him.
They know he's going to be the number 2 running back.
Supposedly they like him. Yeah.
They know he's the number 2 running back behind Zeke.
Yeah.
They're gonna need him. They're not gonna get him hurt in this game.
Yeah.
Where it gets interesting is with Rico Dowdle. So Mike McCarthy is just straight up lying to you when he's saying that you're going to see Rico Dowdle split carries with Pollard and Zeke in the regular season, at least in my opinion. But he did say that. So that at least means he's having a good camp and he wants to put confidence in the guy going forward. That's where I think you see him is in this type of game and going forward in the preseason where he can play a lot of the time. They can see if he is a guy they want to mix in. Like I said, I can't imagine them taking carries away from Zeke and then the little bit that Pollard's going to get. But they want to see what he's got at least, and they want to give him confidence. So he's someone that I do like in this game, and I think that he could see a bulk of the carries. And then the only other 2 running backs on the team are Jaquan Hardy and Brendan Knox. Brendan Knox is actually listed ahead on the depth chart. He was the Conference Player of the Year at Marshall last year, so that's interesting. He only ever fumbled 1 time versus Jaquan Hardy, who had a fumbling issue. So I could see Brendan Knox doing something here, but again, I think Dowdle's going to kind of carry the load, at least in the important minutes. So he's really the guy I'm targeting first, and then potentially Brendan Knox, and just probably not Jaquan Hardy.
Here's another thing that I want to say about these games in general. The day before, so on Thursday during the day, there's going to be a lot of beat writers and articles coming out that say, like, we're going to see that Rico's going to get a lot of work. Like, it's going to happen, and it's going to be a lot up to date. So we're going to try and update this video. We're going to try and update Twitter, like we said, just keep ready for that. But we could get more news on any one of these three guys.
Yeah.
That could be like, they're going to be the guy for this game. So just keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I think they could all three, if you're doing a lot of lineups, make your way into
Yeah, I think you mix and match where you want, but again, I think the safer option is going to be Dowdle.
Definitely. Yep.
But yeah, we can keep it rolling here. Moving on to receiver. Another situation where you have a clear top three receivers. If Zeke's going to play, maybe they play a little bit, but not concerning to us. Amari definitely isn't playing. He's hurt. He's on PUP list. I can't imagine. I mean, CD has looked awesome in training camp. I can't imagine you see a ton of him. Maybe a little Gallup, but again, not much. The Cowboys are a little different from the Steelers. They don't have the injuries that the Steelers do. So you're going to see a lot of receivers in this game. Could you pick the right one? Yeah, you could. And there's some guys I do like, but more likely than not, you're going to see a depth chart that goes 13 players deep on the receiving log and no one with more than 3 catches. If I'm picking, the guys I like are Malik Turner, Noah Brown, and Simi Fehoko. So Malik Turner is actually a dark horse to make the team be like a 6th receiver. So far he's really shown out in camp. Really been good for the Cowboys so far in camp, and I think you do see a good amount of him as they try to see if he's going to make the team. Noah Brown's a guy that's been around for a while, but again, having a nice camp with them so far. Hopefully, you would think they reward him by trying to get him some time in this game. And then Simi Fehoko is a rookie. They drafted him in the 5th round. One of those guys that's, again, having a nice camp. How much are they going to use a rookie in this game remains to be seen. I tend to think that they are going to want to see what he has. Maybe go up against a Cedric Wilson type who they like. And you probably will see some Cedric Wilson here as well. But those are the main 3, and then maybe Cedric Wilson, like I said. After that, I'm really not interested in any of these guys. They're going to be in for more, I think, of the second half. And again, these just seem like camp bodies the further you get down the list. So those are the main 3, maybe 4 guys that I'm looking at in the Cowboys. Mix and match however many lineups you're going to do. But probably not going to captain one of them just because I don't think they're going to be as safe as necessarily a Steelers receiver.
Yep.
And then on to tight end, Blake Jarwin, they're bringing him along slowly. Probably won't see him. Dalton Schultz looks really good in camp so far. Probably see him a little bit. I don't know how much.
Probably not much.
But he could be interesting.
Yeah.
Their third tight end is our favorite person ever, Jeremy Sprinkle. He blocks. He doesn't catch passes. We learned that the hard way. I don't think he's going to be a factor here. No. One of them that is called a tight end, I believe it is Artavius Lynn, is actually a fullback. So don't use him. And then I'm sorry. Nick Ralston is the fullback.
Yeah.
Artavius Lynn only caught 22 balls in college though, so seems more like a blocker. So there's only really 2 pass catching tight ends that I see getting a bulk of the time, and that's Sean McKeon and Nick Eubanks. I'm really interested in Sean McKeon. Again, I'm not typically someone that's looking to tight end in showdown, regular season or preseason, just because they're not as high scoring typically as a receiver could be. But McKeon's had a really nice camp so far. They seem to really like what they see from him. And like I said, with the lack of pass catching tight ends, maybe that's made up from the pass catching wide receivers that we see. But McKeon is someone that I think is athletic enough to go out there and I think will play with some of the Garrett Gilbert line, maybe some of the Cooper Rush line, and extend into DiNucci's time. So someone that could be out there a good bit, and then maybe he catches a red zone pass.
Yep. And if I can remember correctly, I'm trying to go back to this game, but I think Ben DiNucci is one guy who lays back on his tight ends. So
yeah,
it's a possibility there too. Cowboys have always been involved with their tight ends.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I think that about does it for the player pool. I think if we're just circling it all back, I think like we said in the beginning, your cash game will look like most likely with both defenses, probably with 2 quarterbacks, maybe 3 if you really, really want to be safe, but you're not going to have any upside with that.
Yeah.
And then just mix and match those other 2 or 3 spots if you go, one defense or 1 quarterback, however you want to do it. But really mix and match with those running backs that we honed in on, and then a couple of pass catchers that we think could do well.
And what's really going to come down to is if you're building a bunch of lineups and if you're trying to win the big money. So what is it, $5 you said, I think, at 200,000? There's a big contest out there, a lot of entries. You're going to have to get the guy at the tight end, or the touchdown. There's going to be one or two guys with a touchdown, like you said. Cedric Wilson could be that guy. Like, you just never know who it's going to be, but it's going to be a requirement in that lineup. So,
and you're going to have him a captain if you're going to win. You can make money, obviously, with just that guy in your lineup, but there's going to be some percentile of people that have him at captain, and that's going to be the winning lineup. Mm-hmm. This is, like we said, preseason is where the biggest edge is. It's a bigger edge than in the regular season because there's not nearly as much information, and so by us digging deep, we think we found the guys that are going to allow you to make in the money lineups. We hope that the upside is there with those lineups, but obviously they could always fall short if someone that we didn't foresee coming catches 2 fourth quarter touchdowns, which isn't really researchable. It just kind of happens. Doesn't typically happen in this game. So we think that we have not only cashable lineups, but upside lineups as well.
Yeah. And then you also, one other kind of piece of advice, don't fall in love with one guy for this preseason. Like, there are so many possibilities to where there are people you can like. So there's running backs that, obviously the running back room, we're there for. But like when it comes to wide receivers, when it comes to the tight ends, you got to mix and match. Mm-hmm. So just try not to have tunnel vision, build out a bunch of lineups, and I think we got a good shot here.
I agree. I think it'll go well. I'm just excited. Football's back. I'll probably watch for 20 minutes and then turn it off.
God, that's so bad. Well, I think that just about does it.
Yeah, I think that'll wrap it up.
Yep. So keep watching our Twitter. Keep watch on to this video. Pin it, like it, subscribe, whatever. Fine. Go ahead.
Get us up there.
Yep. So we will also be on TikTok. I'll be posting that. I'll post the link in here, and we will hopefully be back next week.
So, yeah. Oh, we'll definitely be back next week.
Okay. All right. The preseason rolls on.
Hopefully with the bigger bankroll.
Yep. All right. Good luck, everybody. Stay tuned.